My struggle to learn English and my day out in England. Why do I struggle so much with English? I used to ask myself this question almost daily. Learning English was never easy for me. Growing up in a small town, English was just another subject we had to study at school, not a language we spoke in our daily lives. Conversations at home were in my native language, and even in school, the emphasis was more on memorizing grammar rules than on speaking or understanding. Whenever I tried to form sentences in English, I would stumble, mispronounce words, or forget what I wanted to say altogether. I still remember the day a teacher asked me to read a passage in front of the class. My hands shook as I held the book. The words on the page seemed like a maze, and by the time I finished reading, my classmates were giggling. That moment stayed with me for a long time. It wasn't just embarrassment I felt, it was frustration, even anger at myself. I wanted to hide, but deep inside, I also wanted to change. It was around this time that I developed a dream: to study abroad. I had seen pictures of beautiful universities in England, heard stories of students thriving in global environments, and imagined myself there someday. But how could I, someone who couldn't speak English fluently, even think of studying in a country where it was the primary language? I knew I had to face my fears and work harder than ever. My journey began with baby steps. Every evening, I would sit with a dictionary, learning 5 new words and using them in sentences. If I heard a new phrase on TV or read one in a book, I would write it down and practice saying it aloud. Watching English movies with subtitles became my favorite pastime, though it was tough in the beginning. Often, I'd pause the movie just to repeat a line and mimic the actor's accent. When I felt a bit more confident, I joined an English speaking course. It was there that I realized I wasn't alone. Many of my classmates were also learning English as a second language, and we encouraged each other. We practiced dialogues, held group discussions, and even laughed at our mistakes. Slowly but surely, I started improving. One of the most challenging yet rewarding exercises was speaking to strangers in English. At markets or restaurants, I would force myself to start conversations. At first, people would look at me with slight confusion, but when they realized I was trying, they responded kindly. Each small exchange boosted my confidence. After months of dedication, something amazing happened. I received an acceptance letter from a university in England. I couldn't believe it. My family was overjoyed, but I was also terrified. What if my English wasn't good enough? What if I couldn't understand native speakers or keep up with the lectures? But a voice inside me reminded me of all the progress I had made. I decided to trust myself and embrace this new chapter. The big day. My first day in England. When I landed in England, everything felt surreal. The air was crisp, the streets were bustling, and the accents around me sounded so different from what I was used to hearing in movies. I could feel my nerves kicking in, but I reminded myself that this was the dream I had worked so hard to achieve. After settling into my dorm, I decided to explore the city. I stepped out with a map in hand, eager yet apprehensive. The cobbled streets were lined with beautiful buildings, quaint little shops, and cheerful street performers. It was like stepping into a postcard. My first stop was a small cafe. I stared at the menu for what felt like an eternity, trying to figure out what to order. The barista noticed my hesitation and said with a warm smile, "Take your time." I managed to order a cappuccino, and even though I stumbled on a word, she didn't seem to mind. That small interaction gave me a boost of confidence. Next, I visited a local bookstore. As I browsed through the shelves, I overheard two locals discussing a novel. Their accents were thick, and I struggled to catch every word, but I picked up enough to understand the gist of their conversation. Gathering my courage, I joined in, saying, "I've heard that's a great book." They smiled and asked if I had read it. Though I hadn't, the brief exchange felt like a milestone. I was speaking English with locals. The highlight of my day was visiting the City Museum. As I wandered through the exhibits, I joined a guided tour. The guide's narration was fast, and I couldn't catch everything, but I understood most of it. At one point, he asked a question, and I surprised myself by answering it. The guide nodded approvingly, and I couldn't stop smiling for the rest of the tour. As the sun began to set, I found myself walking along the riverbank, reflecting on the day. It wasn't perfect. I had made mistakes, hesitated, and even felt lost at times. But I had also taken steps forward. I had navigated a new city, interacted with strangers, and proved to myself that I belonged here. Looking back, I realized that learning English was not just about mastering a language. It was about perseverance, self-belief, and stepping out of my comfort zone. It taught me that struggles are temporary and that with hard work, even the most daunting goals can be achieved. Today, I'm thriving as a student in England, but the journey doesn't stop here. Every day brings new challenges, new opportunities to grow, and new reasons to be grateful. My story is proof that dreams can come true if you have the courage to chase them. Here are some vocabulary words that might help you to understand my story. Apprehensive, meaning, feeling anxious or fearful about something that might happen. Example, she was apprehensive about her first public speech. Perseverance, meaning, continued effort to achieve something despite difficulties or failures. Example, his perseverance helped him complete the marathon. Surreal, meaning, very strange or unusual, like a dream. Example, the view of the northern lights was surreal and breathtaking. Daunting, meaning, making someone feel nervous or less confident, difficult to deal with. Example, moving to a new country can be a daunting experience. Milestone, meaning, a significant stage or event in the development of something. Example, graduating from college was a major milestone in her life. Embarrassment, meaning, a feeling of self-consciousness, shame, or awkwardness. Example, she felt deep embarrassment when she forgot her lines during the play. Fluently, meaning, able to express oneself easily and smoothly, especially in a different language. Example, he can speak Spanish fluently after years of practice. Accentuate, meaning, to make something more noticeable or prominent. Example, the bright scarf accentuates her outfit beautifully. Confidence, meaning, a feeling of self-assurance arising from appreciation of one's abilities. Example, practicing regularly has improved her confidence in public speaking. Acceptance, meaning, the act of agreeing to something or recognizing it as valid. Example, his acceptance into the program was a proud moment for his family. Interaction, meaning communication or direct involvement with someone or something. Example, the teacher encouraged interaction among the students during the group activity. Motivation, meaning the reason or reasons for doing something or behaving in a particular way. Example, her motivation to learn English came from her dream of studying abroad. Hesitation, meaning pausing or being unsure before saying or doing something. Example, his hesitation to answer the question made the teacher think he didn't know the answer. Global, meaning relating to the whole world. Example, English has become a global language for communication. Reflect, meaning to think deeply or carefully about something. Example, she took some time to reflect on her journey before writing her story.